farming, he says. Like, you don't always have, like, you're not the harvester all the time. You're just doing the farming. Maybe you just go by and you water something that someone's planted already. We're just farming. And I think that works. I think that's a good analogy. What do you think?
I think it's just good to make someone think, because then they start to question themselves. And if you can show hypocrisy in their view, I feel like they can start to think deeper.
And that's why I think the moral argument is a good argument, because I think it's really specific to Christianity.
Yeah, a couple years ago, man, I had got into it with couple African American people. I'm African American myself, and I got into it with a couple of African American people about the George Floyd situation when he was murdered by a cop. And a lot of black people didn't like what I had to say because the first thing I said was, why would you go in the store with a counterfeit $20 bill? As much as people want to say that cop was wrong, he was wrong in his morality going into a store with a counterfeit $20 bill. I've touched plenty of money. I can tell if a bill is counterfeit, and I'm not sure if he could tell or if he got it from a store or where he got this counterfeit money from. But just playing the scenario in my head, if I go to a store and I give them a counterfeit bill and a
the day, the hour that my friend Jeff the atheist is going to give his life, if he gives his life to Christ, do we as believers, do we know that he's going, whether or not he's going to do it or not? First of all,
it's not for us to know.
So why would we as believers assume that it's even remotely appropriate to say, as though we're God?
I keep trying to tell you, I don't assume anybody. I don't assume.
So you're asking the dumb question?
I don't assume Daniel.
Now do you see the dumb question now?
Any atheist is. We are the world. We are the children.
Yeah, Chrissy.
Make a better place for John.
Some people that have.
Oh, look, you know, it wouldn't even mind for John.
Well, guess what? He doesn't love those he sends to hell, Chrissy. He hates them.
Oh, I gotta get the lyrics pulled up on that, because then, like, I think John Lee, his name would rhyme with that. Yeah, actually, just ding it every time somebody says John Lee, and we can just ding it for John Lee.
John Samuel Lee. All this
Chrissy, I do have a question for you. Do you think you know the website got questions?
Yeah, you and I
think that's a do you think that's a very reputable site? I guess for people that are seeking answers.
I think it's pretty.
I mean, I think it's as far as I've been able to find, it's all right. It's okay. There's better ones, but I think
it's fairly reputable, a good source, right?
I'd rather go to the Bible Gateway, but yeah, all right.
Okay,
yeah,
all right. Okay, well, earlier,
Chrissy.
But earlier, the point is, Chrissy, earlier you mentioned something about the tulip. Is it biblical or something like that? But I was actually looking at Got Questions. And lo and behold, they find it to be biblical. If you would like, I will go through it very quickly. If you would care to entertain it.
Oh God! Please don't make me do that.
Well, but you were asking for this, right? Now
I don't want to know any more free substance.
This is what you were asking. Is it biblical? Got Questions of a place that you said is fairly decent and reputable.
You can fit it into John Calvin's Bible. You can't fit it into the whole Bible.
Well, you're asking if there's biblical support for the acronym.
John Lee's got his own book in the good book at this point.
You are asking if there's biblical support for it, no?
Yeah, I'm not denying that there isn't parts of it, but I mean, I'm just going to add a little bit if it's okay. I'm just going to subtract a little bit, but add a whole bunch, and then we'll call it the five pillars or tulip of Christianity, namely Calvinism. It's just normal. Yeah, thank you, Daniel.
It's not adding anything to it. It's just simply pointing out the scriptures that
Oh, God.
are definitional to the acronym.
I'm not even a bubbly blonde, but like I'll still deal with that. There's also like Chrissy Teigen. I never get her.
No one's going to get Chrissy on scripture. She knows it better than probably everyone on stage. So, if you, I
Whoa. I am not saying that at all. I appreciate it if that was just meant to be, if it was in jest, haha. If it was being serious,
I believe
no. Yeah, no. And I don't even have, this is one of the few times I ain't got the Bible on me. Hey, I got a friend down there in the audience that I can really get to his house real quick right now. Borrow that Bible.
What do you need?
No, don't get jealous now, because I can make it happen real quick. Jeff, really, you're better than that. All right, go see if Chrissy Teigen's on there. Chrissy.
I missed it, and I ended up with Chrissy from Three's Company. But I got your.
How about we go with this one, fellas? He spells it Chrissy too. She's actually a supermodel. Thanks.
Nice.
Right? And her husband is a John. oh man, this is John Legend.
Oh. Man,
I mean,
imagine yourself after a legend like Legend.
Yeah, but I'm hard pressed at this point to have a look. I don't even like to give them that much quiet time because like when Johnny and John have that much quiet time, it gets kind of scary.
This is why they call her the Wrecking Ball. So in case anyone wonders.
I just got something in my back channel. Hey, Johnny, guess what? I love Calvinists. Even if they did do the website, got questions. Okay? Great. There's plenty of Calvinists that I've met in real life that don't sound as ridiculous. I'm sorry, but they don't ask dumb questions like you guys do. So,
what questions do they ask that aren't dumb questions? I'm curious.
Hey, are you a believer in God? I sure am. So you believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, the Savior of mankind, that He gave His life for everybody, and that we can all go to heaven if we believe in Him? Sure do, Mr. or Mrs. Calvinist. Well, cool. You can sit at our cool Calvinist table. I'm like, awesome. Let's do that.
So if I were to ask you, Chrissy, you believe God loves you, that's not a dumb question, right?
Not a dumb question at all.
But if I ask Chrissy, do you believe God loves everyone? That is the dumb question, right?
Yeah, that's when you start playing in the dumb land, and I don't want you to do that.
I think I'm going to maybe try to incorporate that. The next time atheists are on my stage and they're wanting to ask me all these questions about determinism and free will and whether or not Hitler was determined to be, who he is, whether or not the Holocaust was determined to happen, I think I'm just going to respond with, that's a dumb question. Next.
Well,
that'll work. That would work, right?
Well, I mean, without me having to come in like a wrecking ball right now, I think that at this point, unless we get some new ones, sorry, I can't think. I'm gonna do this shit. At this point, I can't think of a single atheist that I've not been at least fairly well acquainted with in this platform. Now, I'm not saying that there's been a flow of, because there was one point we had the Paracel people and then there was the Discord people. Like, we could have a chunk of new Christians, a chunk of new atheists come in, but I'm pretty sure that I've come encounter with a majority of the ones that at least speak up, ask questions. So yes, they've either heard the dumb question asked, they've asked it themselves, and it's been answered by someone that at least self-admittedly says that they're a Christian. Whether or not they are, that's up to, to the two parties asking the questions to each other. But I think by now it would be almost ignorant if you were to hear an atheist ask to any of us. Now, if it's a brand spanking new Christian, that's different. But to any of us, if you heard an atheist say something like, "So why are babies in the world that have sickness? Why does murder still exist? Why would this all-loving God that you believe in allow for, sin?"
Yeah, those are pretty easy questions to me. But I think I'm just going to go your route. I think I'm just going to go your route, Chrissy. Chrissy, whenever someone asks me those type of questions, I'm just going to say, "Oh, that's a dumb question." You got another question? How about that?
There you go.
Now we're making progress.
That's how we're cooking with this.
Oh, Jufra, welcome to Calvinism.
Welcome to Christianity, Johnny.
Welcome to Christianity, where all the questions you ask about Christianity are dumb as hell.
Please don't let those replays are on. Can somebody clip the crap out of that? You guys in the audience, clip the crap out of that and put it all over social media. Thank you. We are the world. Sing it, man. We
are the children.
We are the ones who want a better day.
So let's
John.
I'll pause.
And that, you know, you're doing great stuff. You got a book out there. You're really a go-getter. And I try to just let it be revealed to me when it comes by a bunch of my friends saying, have you seen what Johnny's done lately? And then I'm like, oh, crap. But so for right now, what the hell has Bill got in his... Oh, I got it.
Chrissy, when's your book coming?
No, not a chance.
Chrissy,
it's gonna be okay. Yeah.
Chrissy, what kind of sandwich are you going to ask Johnny make?
What kind of sandwich would I make, John?
No, what kind of sandwich are you going to have him make? You said he would make you a sandwich.
I wouldn't want to be overly complicated, and to be honest, as a helpmate, if you know, and I hope that his wonderful wife does this for him, as a subservient helpmate and follower of Christ, I mean, I would be so thankful for him to even offer. But then I would want to be that strong woman in Christ and say, no, hon, we're besties. Come on, you prop them feet up. You've had a long day, Johnny. Let me jump in there and do it. And you know, that's how that would go.
Wow.
But so to Tom's question, yep, to Tom, what Tom speaks to is scary. It's really freaking scary, man.
Yeah,
What?
I'll say.
Oh no. What I would do if I did it, it would be about all of Clubhouse, and it'd be like the time I've spent in therapy getting over Clubhouse, and then and steps to get over Clubhouse. Yeah. Oh shit, your mouth! I can't even really see which one it is.
I just want to say that I love Chrissy. She's so fun to listen to, and it's just obvious that she would just rule this app if she just, you know.
No, I don't know. I think there's a lot of. I've said a lot of things that I know I get irritated and I'm and to everybody.
Chrissy, I don't know if you know this or not. You might have a friend in Matt Adams, because there's some talk about town that perhaps there might be a Matt Adams versus a John Lee debate on Calvinism. Now that's sort of what that's been going around. I don't know. I think John's been wanting to have that debate with Matt for a long time, but
I've been telling Matt. Okay.
Yes.
I've been telling Matt that I think that it would be fruitful, but I also said that as you know, Christians, I think that there should be an actual powwow. Like I don't know, maybe you guys do it for your house. Is this? Yeah, Fools for Christ. I think that if you had some like understood admin, like even ask an atheist. You want to know what they're doing? I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the ones that are not saying that they're the followers of Christ. They've got booming rooms. They are knocking the walls out on Sundays, the Sabbath, on Ask an Atheist. And why? I'm saying this because they are smart. They have the know-how to say, let's use the gifts that we're given in an audio app to make something work. If you're consistent, and I think, Johnny, you're one to be really consistent. I'm not saying that I am at all. But if we got a Christian house, and I know that we try in that Ask a Christian, but it gets derailed too many times, mostly due to Christians asking other Christians things that are just stupid, in my own opinion, and rather than trying to help non-believers come to Christ. If we did have a all Christian house and we had it consistent, and we had it not only consistent, but like Johnny, you could spearhead it wonderfully, because this is in your wheelhouse. to have admin that you know that are dependable, that would always be there, to be good moderators, that follow by a certain, you know, script of we do this and we don't allow for that. And then a breakdown, maybe a 5 minute powwow at the end where we say, all right, for the next time, it's going to be on the same day, and we could really start growing more people to having a safe place of asking real questions instead of just the one. Because the atheism club is great. I mean, it's introduced me to so many awesome Christians, atheists, Jewish people. But can the same really truly be said about Fools for Christ, Ask a Christian, Good People Only? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think we're there yet.
Is James still there?
Yeah.
He had a big blowout and blocked a load of people.
Yeah, what happened to James? Why did he block so many
Chrissy,
people?
yeah. Just not.
Colorado?
No,
No, James is tired.
James is tired.
Oh.
It's Jedi now.
We call him Jedi. So Jedi, yeah, he is got Jesus power. This house has done.
Who was blocked? Does anyone know?
He announced it in his room. Haiti, if you want to say it, because I mean, but it was announced.
Yeah, I just want, what happened? I wasn't there. I missed it.
Have we got a story for you?
I want to hear it.
I was kidding. Sorry.
Chrissy, were you there? What happened?
What happened?
Hey, listen, guys. I'm sorry. I'm driving right now, and but long story short, I back all the Christians on the staff, even though they might have some more questions. Hey, James, I got your back, man.
And you can't tell us the story of this?
short,
What happened?
Long story short, I'm listening.
I'm not going to tell you. Okay.
Long story short, and then I'm going to mute again. I was having a conversation with Mulder. It got heated. I ended the conversation with Mulder so that, it wouldn't get further. I started talking with Friction. That was a little bit heated. Mulder jumped in. I sent him down to the audience because I said, hey, we're done with the conversation between you and I. Then Hogtie was the other mod. He kept bringing people up on stage who were intentionally interrupting me. And then Hogtie started to try to overtalk me. Demanded that I bend to his will on the stage. Wouldn't let me explain. Hogtie threw me off the stage, and so then I said, all right, I'm done with these abusive people again. I'm just going to block a bunch of them, and that's where we are right now.
What was the initial dispute with Mulder about that got so heated?
Well, he kept, first he would make a claim, and then I would push back, and then when that didn't stand, then he would move it to something else. And so then I was trying to really stick him on a point, and at the same time I had Jane coming in, and she kept saying that I was making the opposite point of what I'm saying. But if I tell you 8 times in a row that that's not what I'm saying, and you keep repeating saying, no, this is what you're saying, then you have to at least, an honest person would recognize that we're just talking past each other. That maybe if I'm repeating this back to James and he's saying this isn't what he's saying, then maybe I could try to clarify, but no one did that.
James, in all fairness, I get treated like that, not ever so far by you, but I've been treated like that by other Christians. That it sounds like But I will say
Hogtie
this
knows what he
much.
did. He's going to deny it and pretend that he was trying to be rational, and I'm not having it tonight.
See, like now I can't give validity behind. I back you, man. I didn't even unmic. You heard that. But now what you said, if that's true, because I like Hogtie, if that's what he did, oh man, Hogtie, that's lame. Do better. But if it's not what he did, which he doesn't even get a voice right now, I'm not a moderator. I already invited him up, 80. If he doesn't get a voice to at least say what he either agrees or disagrees that you're saying that he did, one, yeah, there can't be any kind of reconciliation. Doesn't sound very Christian to me. And then, I just made that word up. And then two, I don't know if I believe you, because why wouldn't you want to bring him up?
Because we just had a big blowout, and it's Johnny's room, and I don't really want to like have a big fight. But I'm gonna mute, and people can bring, or Johnny can bring Hogtie up, have a conversation with him. I don't really care, but the point is that Hogtie wouldn't let me speak, threw me off the stage, demanding that I answer his question, and it just went south. I don't really care who believes me or who doesn't believe me. But yeah, Johnny, you can bring Hogtie up if you want.
Well, that was me and Haiti every day the moment we met. And then, so what? We got over it.
Johnny, do you want to bring up Hogtie so we can like get to the bottom of it?
I invited him up, but I don't think James is going to, engage, which that's his prerogative. But yeah,
but Hogtie could defend himself, I guess.
If he does,
I haven't seen Hogtie mod very much, but as a person, he's always seemed very fair and reasonable to me. But everyone also can have a bad night, so I don't want to rule out any.
Yeah, that's what I think, Haiti. Unless you bring up Republicans, it gets a little dicey.
I can speak to it if you want. I mean, my suggestion would be, and actually what the major point of bickering was about was my insistence. Okay, next topic. I get it. Let's move on. I would love to move on. And if I do tell my side about it, you got to brace yourself, because I'm not going to do what James just did. James went, well, let me keep it short. Hogtie was a butthead, and I was super awesome, and Hogtie is 100% wrong. So it's going to take a little bit longer than that. So I will try to gather my thoughts and organize. I do want to say, as a little point of criticism, which I intend to be helpful, James, you have a really, really bad habit in a conversation where you're having a dispute of insisting on recapping what just happened. And by my count, you did it 6 times. So
I said I'm not addressing you or talking with you.
But you did. And now you are.
And Hogtie.
So I'm just telling my side, and we can all move on.
Hogtie, stop. They asked me what happened. I gave them what happened. You can sit here and shovel your horse shit and tell them whatever you want on stage without addressing.
Little witnesses there, James. So
thank you for your permission to.
You can talk to them, but don't talk to me. Thank you.
Okay, cool. But that was actually, the thing is, other people are aware of the phenomenon that you have a discussion. So, and I just to tell you guys how ridiculous it was, there was a discussion, and it was a totally, people agreed on stuff and they disagreed on stuff, as we often do. At one point, somebody brought up, I forgot the word for it, anarchism, whatever it was. Whatever it was. And then, but they had a disagreement over what the official definition was of that word. You're in Clubhouse, you guys all know how ridiculous it gets. So James had one take on what he meant by it. The other people were looking it up on presumably Wikipedia. I don't know. The whole thing turned ugly and it got into a big shouting match or whatever. And at one point, I don't even know why I was a mod in that room. That was the craziest thing ever. I was the only mod. When James came in, I thought, I like James. I want James to be a mod too. So I modded James. Immediately got messages from people saying, don't mod James, because he's going to abuse his mod powers.
5 hours of that.
That was it.
Nonsense when he said that Christians were good in Egypt.
If you look at the prosecutions of Coptics in Egypt,
meaning no matter what, you would not choose God. So you have to be. It's different than just an
And, well, yeah, you could look on the 6 o'clock news and see all the sin that people freely.
Books. I find that kind of condescending. Do you, Johnny? If I were to just, we had an exchange about something for like a minute, I'm like, you know what, you need to read this book, you need to listen to this 12-part series on such and such. Do you find that a little like...
People, I remember being in a room not long ago, and I was speaking. Don't irritate me and think that you're going to be welcome in the room. Don't do that stupid stuff. Understand who you're talking to. And if you're understanding what it is to be a Christian, what Christians believe, and what the Bible...
You're not a Christian though, Mr. Johnny Hawes. You understand who you're talking to. I don't give a stuff who you are.
Quran will have a light. Just as simple. And to say that it's...
Don't irritate me and think that you're going to be welcome in the room. Don't do that stupid stuff. Understand who you're talking to. And if you're understanding what it is to be a Christian, what Christians believe, and what the Bible does say, don't present that Christian with the idea that just psychologically that cannot sit right with a person. Well, no, I get that. Yeah, I get that a lot of people, it's just one of those pills that they just can't seem to swallow. It doesn't sit right with them. You mean to tell me that there are some people on this planet that don't even have a chance to be saved? I mean, it's one thing to say God gave them a chance, but just squander for being a non-believer. Because it's like, how can you do that with? But we were completely losing his point because of this ridiculous bickering over the Wikipedia definition of whatever, who cares? And I'm like, let's go forward. You got points to make, like, let's go forward with it. And anyway, James's response, as is often his habit, which as a friend I would like to discourage him, or to recognize how annoying this is to say, yeah, but how time? No, we can't be doing that. I told you, if one guy gets...
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Okay. Yeah, and believe me, I'm doing it in a very focused way. I told you ahead of time, it's going to take some time, but it's very, very focused.
Yeah, because he's making up a lot of stuff, too.
Well, you obviously get a rebuttal, man.
No, I'm going to address that. I have an untypical memory. I know everybody thinks they remember stuff.
All right. So then it gets to the crux of the bad part, which is with you and
yeah. So, okay, which part was that? They were bickering about whatever.
So after the atheism thing, yeah, then it gets to the point where you're like, you could not absolutely, like, it was bad between you and specifically Jedi. It's something that he always does, and you said, man, as a friend.
Right. It wasn't. Actually, and I don't remember which guy it was, and actually now I'm hearing James's retelling, and I think that part's accurate. He was talking with one guy, another guy came in, but the first guy started talking, and then at one point James moved somebody down to the audience. And it was, on my viewing of it, it was because James was saying, okay, and then again, this is the habit that I think people were objecting to, certainly I was, is that when people say, let's move on, James has got to say, but I said this, and then he said that. Oh, but what you got to realize is I said this, and then he said that, and then he said this, and I said that, and I said this, and he said that. Okay, we get it. We were all here. We don't need your recap. So let's move on. Yeah, but what I said, and he said, what I said, whatever. So I ended up bringing the guy back up on stage, and I told him, okay, fine. I get it. It's just a discussion. Let's move on. And then at one point, one of the guys I brought back up was JJ, and I told JJ, just quiet for a sec. We're going to deal with this. Keep your microphone muted. JJ, whether you heard me or not, I don't know, but he unmuted. I moved JJ back down to the audience and immediately re-invited him back up. And this goes on and on for the longest time. Finally, this is where the big moment happens. I say this to the room, very focused on James. I'm like, look, I get it. It's an internet discussion. We're actually having a good discussion.
but all the shouting is absolutely maddening. Can we knock that off? And I said, look, it's like having people over at your backyard barbecue. And I asked this question, can we just please, like human beings, treat each other with dignity and respect? And James said, well, the thing is, I said this and he said that. So I moved him down and immediately re-invited him back up. And I immediately explained.
He did not invite me back up. I got zero invite back up. That is a lie.
Not a lie.
When he sent me down, hold on, wait. I'm responding.
Okay.
When he sent me down, he blamed me for everything.
Get everybody other than James mute, please. Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, I'll die, but yeah.
No, when he sent me down, before he sent me down, he started to blame me for everything going on in the room, even though you guys heard him say that people were piling on me. He started to bring the people back up to the stage.
Sorry, James. I'm talking on mic. It's got a lot of bad background sound, and it's hard to hear what James is saying.
Yeah, but it's because, but because it was my turn. I thought he was going to say something quick, but okay. Yeah, but just hold on. Yeah, that's not true what he's saying.
No, it was true. You blamed me for everything going wrong with the stage.
That's not true.
You never corrected anyone else. And I was the only one that you booted from the stage, other than the one time you moved JJ down. But you're also the one who brought JJ back up. You sent Mulder an invite back up. Hogtie, you were like completely showing your butt, backing Team Atheist. I expected better from you.
That's not true. Okay, so I'm just going to unmute and lie. So, by the way, that was another one of the points of contention, was when there was a disagreement. If you disagree with James, you are about to be told that you're a liar. You're about to be told you're dishonest. That was rubbing people the wrong way. So, no, he's just wrong. I don't know how he thinks that he knows how many people I moved down or back up. I don't know. Maybe he's got a camera in my house. I don't know. I'm not
telling everybody that you're liars. I'm simply pointing out that Jane is a liar. Jane has lied lots before. I'm pointing out that Worm is a liar. Worm's lied. Mulder's lied. Pretty much several people who hang out in this troll group who bully theists on this app are liars. That's just the way it is, Hogtie. But that's just something
awesome. Let me finish my turn, and then you can say what you want to say, and then the rest of us are going to be grown-ups, and we're done with this topic. Because literally nobody cares. They're curious, but they don't really care. I don't care. I'm the grown-up. I don't care to deal with it. Let me finish.
We don't care, then we're done, and we're going to move on.
You are mistaken.
No, Hogtie, if nobody cares and we're done, we're just going to move on. You're not going to get the last word.
Be a grown-up.
No, because you're demanding that you have
finishing.
Hogtie, you're demanding that you have the last word and that I can't have a response after.
He's not on stage anymore, James. The part that everybody, and I think you'll agree that we all wanted to hear, was him at least getting a right and a chance to be able to say.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Look, I'm fine if he was going to still talk, but he was then demanding that I don't respond after that, and that's just not going to fly. He's not going to tell us that the conversation is
close the issue, James.
Harley Quinn stuff. He's not going to tell us that the conversation is done once he gets done speaking. He tried that in the other room, and he booted me off stage, so I booted him off stage. Same prerogative.
Childish as it may be, but that's how Clubhouse works.
I don't think he was saying no one cares here. I think he was saying in the other room, no one cared. I think that's what he was referring to.
Or even if it was in general, I mean, now that it's been talked about, I'm with him on that. Like, why does it have to keep going on and on and on? And why would we have to, like, resort to, if for his reason of moving you down, piss you off, then never let him be a mod in your rooms again. I get that. But to then say, you see what you did? Now watch, I can do this. That to me, come on, man.
Chrissy, you're not tracking. I said that the reason why I cut him off and was ending it now is because he was making a big deal in the focus that he, Hogtie, is special, gets the last word like he got in the other room. I'm not putting up with that crap 2 rooms in a row. If he's not going to want to hear a response, then he's not going to get to come up here and whine and complain and moan. I'm just not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I have to agree with James here because Hogtie was permitted to say, he was given a lot of time to speak. Hogtie then said, it's over. He wanted to end it. And James said, okay, let's end it. And then Hogtie's reply was to just insult James and say he was a child.
Not really.
So
No, he said, look, see what we did
that
dead, and then he split.
And then after that, he called James a child. He was removed to the audience. So
let's move on.
So when are the atheists going to get in a fight with each other? Because, like, you guys never fight.
Are you kidding?
Okay, actually, I started thinking about some of the Tom Rabbit things, and yeah, actually, I did hear one or two. Okay. You guys do.
We might fight more than the Christians do.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I did hear Andrew in the room with all of the Jewish people, or not Jewish people, I'm sorry, the Muslim people.
Uh-huh.
And he's trying to wrangle, oh, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a future good one. He's trying to, like, take on, like, well, to me, I've always had respect for James in that he's definitely one that wants to get down to why they believe what they believe, why it is opposing to what Christians believe, and then hear all sides and all parts of it, including, without it being too, I think like Chris Claus and some of those, because those guys were brought up too. This lady that's Muslim brought it up. Actually, she said, "I would highly advise that all of you people that are Muslim do not go into Andrew's room. Then, if he's going to allow people like that." And then she explained herself, and I kind of didn't blame her for that because she said, and she named him out by name. And Andrew was like, okay, if they're going to do that, which the only one of all the ones you named, that Chris Claus is the only one that I know of, and he never comes up on my stage, then I wouldn't have them. And then he said, so I would really hope that we can make this happen, basically. So that was interesting. I don't know if that's going to happen in one of Andrew's rooms.
I look for
Chris Claus is pretty hard on Muslims, as I recall.
I look forward to the Matt Adams v. Calvinism. Calvinism is bullshit.
Christy, I just wanted to let you know, I happened to catch a replay where you were sort of putting Daniel on trial for this whole toxic dead friend thing.
Yeah, I still got the replay on my bio.
I have knowledge that it was not Daniel, and I can't reveal my sources, but I just wanted to let everyone know it was not Daniel.
Well, what I'm saying is that before ever putting a replay on a room, because you know me, I try never to do that because I want people to feel, where they can talk. At least in my club, if I'm going to open up my club and I'm actually going to have the replays on, then I'm going to want to know that I'm not going in it blindly. So what happened prior to that, whether he wants to talk about it or not, is that I did make sure that it was in a private room, locked. No one could come in other than Daniel and myself. I gave him the exact hypothetical, then I read the exact word for word, verbatim, back channel messages between Toxic and myself. And then once realizing that it was him that I was referring to, he gave me his stance on it. He said that he did it the way he said what he said, because that's how he felt about the issue, and that he hears where I'm coming from as far as this part, that I was being very charitable as far as he could have done. He could have been more charitable as far as not saying what he said. And I said, you know what? If you want to continue this, I think that the only fair thing, because at that point now it's just kind of like if Hogtie and me were talking, but James didn't even get a right to speak. That's not fair. So then I opened it up, with replays on in my room, and then you heard how that went down. Daniel, is any part of that not true?
Yeah, none of that is relevant. I'm just telling you, I know it wasn't Daniel. That's it.
Wasn't Daniel as far as what?
The picture of the dead friend. That was not Daniel.
Hey, Johnny.
Straight up said that he put it as a meme, or not a meme.
Yeah, he did one thing, which was kind of gross, where he put that meme of someone getting hit by a bus. But the picture of the dead friend and the fake troll account with the first wife's name was not Daniel.
I am not trying to sit here and say that I want to just corner the clubhouse market for those of integrity, but I'm going to 110% say, and I see some of them on the stage that are atheists, some of them on the stage that are Christian. I see them in the audience that are of different secular beliefs, that I truly believe that they are in good faith, being good people. And if you're being a good person, that a good person doesn't justify, and I love you with my whole heart, Daniel, and you know that. A good person, Haiti, doesn't justify whether it was a little offensive as someone like, after I poured my heart out and said my dad died from coronavirus, and then you put a meme on there, kind of, sort of, or if you actually put my dad as your meme,
Women don't half love the sound of their own voice, don't they? Nauseating. Kevin was in there somewhere. They've all gone quiet now. Oh yeah, Kevin.
Women's Klan rally as well. What does that tell you? But you got a whole lot of these people out there who are bought into these lies and think it's about liberation, who think it's about all these other things, trying to help people. Like, they call it Medicare. They don't call it murder. They don't call it killing. They call it medicine. All you have to do is just call it something else from what it is, package it a different way, and then when you condition people enough times over a period of time, you'll get people to accept it. I mean, it doesn't matter how much perfume you put on a pig or on a turd, it's still a pig or a turd. But the bottom line is, if you can make people think it's something other than a pig or a turd, then that's all that matters. Because the old saying goes is, no matter how false something is, if you condition someone enough times, they'll eventually believe it.
I reckon they could even do it with stuff like 2 + 2 is 4. If they said enough that 2 + 2 is 5, and they cancel you and outcast you if you say it's anything other than 5, people will just start saying 2 + 2 is 5.
What I've had is kind of interaction. Everybody who's known me for a long time, has seen me get angry at least once. Has seen me.
Step-by-step thing. They implement it little by little. There's sequence to all this stuff. They don't just put that on you all at once. They have to socially engineer people to put things into place step by step. I mean, they did the same thing with the LGBT, etc. stuff. First, it started off as, well, we just want to be left alone. We just want to be able to love who we love, this, that, and the third. Then they extended it to marriage. And then they extended it to identity. And then now it's about having pride shoved out your throat every left and right turn now. So it starts off one way, it's packaged in one way, and then incrementally they put more and more on you, and then they give you what their real agenda was from the beginning. They can't tell you what their actual agenda was from the start, because if they did, a lot of people would repudiate what they're doing and outright condemn it from the start, and then wouldn't get off the ground. But if you peel off layer by layer by layer, and even more important, you condition the current generation, the more impressionable ones, then over time, you're going to get the result you're looking for.
It's so bad that my little sister, she is like 13, and I don't know if it's my school or because she's close to my older sister, and my older sister identifies as like non-binary, but she's convinced there's 3 genders, and she's also like convinced what's it called, that abortion's just fine, and she'll fully joke about like killing a baby and shit, and it's just disgusting to hear, and I can literally just see her getting indoctrinated right in front of my eyes. And I try and have a conversation with her, but it's like she completely disrespects any of the values or ideas I put forward to her.
Yeah, they basically have sold these people a bill of goods, and they try to feed these people moral virtues and gas their heads up in this false moral kind of a context. They want to make you think that the opposite or the opposition to their worldview, these people are so bad that they're not even worthy of being discussed or even worthy of a conversation, because they know that no serious moral ethical person would defend the kind of crap they believe in. So rather than trying to have a serious conversation about engagement to really test moral ideas to see who has the actual defensible moral positions, they just try to attack their opponents. They, slaughter their opponents to death. They just say, well, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're anti-women, this, that, and the third. And
agree with that. We do want to see, but John apparently backed out, so we're not going to see that.
So Calvinism is bullshit.
Wait a minute, who backed out?
Well, John Lee said, "Oh, I'd love to debate Matt Adams," and then he said, "Well, I didn't say I would. I just said I'd like to."
John. Don't be scared. Love that Calvinism. Right.
Actually, if you don't mind, and I did just get, you're going to love this. I actually got a Bluetooth battery warning, so I got to be quick. I just want to say one thing, and it's not even about the thing in the other room. It's about what happened in this room, because I think I might have been misheard or whatever. The replays are on. Go check it. I think that gentlemen would get to speak their piece, say their apologies, and move on, and that tomorrow's a new day. What I said was, I'll say my thing, you say your thing, and we're done. And then I said the thing about nobody cares. I then moved down and told, well, Hogtie insisted on the last word. No one.
Sorry, I said very politely that it was done, and he brought it up again.
Did you really remove him? Is he removed?
He said it.
No, Dan, check this out though. He wanted to get his last word in. Jedi totally gets that. I understand that, right, Dan? But here's the problem. He said that in front of all of us with replays on, and in front of anybody and everybody in the listening lounge, right? We all heard that, right, guys? And then he said it to Hogtie when Hogtie wasn't even in the room. So that's not right.
To Chrissy, when he threw me off the stage, he got to talk crap about me for like 20 to 30 minutes with the other atheists on the other stage and didn't care. Never sent me an invite up. I never got that notification that he's claiming that I got. And then I was willing to bring him back up on my stage.
Johnny, it's out.
Yeah, exactly. Also, two wrongs make a right. Is that right, Jedi? So that's what we're doing now, two wrongs?
Stop so I can finish. And here I am bringing him back up on the stage. The only thing is, let's not talk about the issue that happened. Let's have a conversation. And I didn't even say anything to him. And he started right in at me.
Okay,
I stand by removing him.
Man, Jedi. You're not acting like a Jedi.
About them Golden Knights.
How about the, okay, I don't know. The Bears always suck. Yeah, I'd say the Blackhawks, but, Blackhawks kind of sucked. Go Knights! Yay!
Oh my God.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Oh, God. I love Chicago. I wish there wasn't so much murder in that city. That sucks.
Wait, I thought Detroit was the murder city.
I know you're trying to claim it, but if anything, if we're going per capita, still, and now more than ever, Chicago's ringing it in. But then, this close to Tennessee, I got to throw it up for Memphis. Memphis has got some gang happening.
I heard Barry, Indiana.
I haven't done a search to really see where the stats are, especially for 2023. But as of 2022, it was still Chicago as number one, Memphis number two, and Detroit number three. In case you guys don't know what we're talking about the cities in the United States of America that are the places to murder. It's the murder capitals of the country.
The top 5 cities you can get to heaven faster in.
Look at it, man. I don't know if you're being serious or what, but I also don't know because the Lord gave me a brain, and I can't say that. Well, I mean, He did give me a brain, but I think I'm gonna avoid that city. My mom's there. I don't want to. It hurts because my mom's there. My dad's there.
Parts of Chicago that are that violent, I don't think you would typically go in anyway. So it's not. The tourism part of Chicago is fine.
It says Chicago, New York, Houston, Los Angeles, top 5.
I've got a different list. I've got Baltimore
Just
number
Plains,
3.
Illinois,
No,
okay.
Birmingham, Alabama number 3. Baltimore, Maryland number 2. St. Louis.
That makes sense. St. Louis, yeah.
St. Louis, Missouri number 1.
Is that
There you
2020?
go. No, I don't think it's 2019.
Oh, that's way outdated then.
Fair enough. That's out of date. Yeah, if it's a 2023, I guess we should look at.
This was 20.
Probably only have 22.
Yeah, we need to make the list.
Yeah, well, they've got the catch and release after defunding the police. So now, along with
I don't think anyone defunded the police. It's just like a slogan.
Now, were there crooked DAs and all kinds of crooked cops in Chicago? Sure. But did they defund them? You damn right. Lori Lightfoot is on there's YouTube after you can YouTube it and hear what some of the most the atrocity that comes out of her mouth. Thank God they got rid of that lady. But in her heyday, she was able to not just pull funds from actually the police academies, which who's going to deny that them needing reform? Reform, yay! Defunding at the sake that there's no more cops to defend, dumb, bad. And then implementing something like a catch and release type deal where I can shoot you in the head, then I will get a little citation like I ran a traffic light, and I'm back on the streets to kill again. Genius.
Are you sure that's what catch and release means?
What? I'm sorry. How would you then define it?
But I don't think it means that you shoot someone in the head and then you get out to be on the street.
I don't know if it's first degree murder. Though I don't know if it's quite first degree murder, but absolutely the most heinous. There's plenty of charges damn near close to it that you can normally get. You just do some time in jail and at least have to wait to see a judge or get a bail set. Now you get a documentation from a cop if they're able to give it to you that says, hey, show up to court on this date. If you want to take off to say across the border or go wherever and kill over there, or beat the crap out of your wife within 2 inches of her life in a different country, different state, sure. But just make sure and show up to court on time about that one when you were beating her within an inch of, for the domestic violence charge that was, a felony domestic violence. Sure, absolutely. And then if you can imagine hardly getting paid with no one there on your squad there to back you, are you going to go down like, let's say Cicero and some, I'd say dark alley in the south side of Chicago, CEO? I mean, I wouldn't. Screw that.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Me?
Yeah, I saw you sitting on stage there. I hadn't got a chance to say hello. How you been?
Oh, thank you. I didn't. I'm doing good actually.
You're gonna laugh because I'm reading over the last chapter of your book. Hope you don't mind. Thinking maybe we can have a room on it tomorrow. That's all.
No, I don't mind.
Yeah, because we recently did Shepherd to Lost Sheep, which I love. And then let's, if you're not busy, we'll do the last debate again. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Hey, John, who's the guy that is always there supporting? I thought it might be Johnny's book, but that you thought I can't remember his name. That's reading the book. That's reading his book. That's reading Johnny's book. I talked to you about. Don't know. It's you, Jeff.
What?
Oh, hey, we were talking the other day about because there was a room. I didn't see Johnny in it. I don't think maybe. Yeah, no, maybe he was. Yeah, he was. And then he was. I think that they were reading Johnny's book. Joe would be in there. I can't think of the dude on Clubhouse's name.
Yeah, Joe's been doing that with Johnny in there.
Yeah, but there's another guy. What I'm trying to think of.
So I'm reading this catch and release law, and it does not include murder, robbery, burglary, arson, kidnapping, or aggravated battery.
Great. See, guys, the big ones that would definitely make you want to not live in that city, let alone walk peacefully down the streets. You're still okay. They might actually lock them up in the clink for a little bit, but every other one, since we don't even have the cops to really haul them off to jail, those kind of charges you can basically just get away with. And if you're a pedophile, if you're, name any other heinous act or charge.
Pedophiles are going to be catch and release either.
I'm sorry, Mr. CEO, can you read that list again? And was that one of the ones that was included?
Yeah, it was murder, robbery, burglary, arson, kidnapping, and aggravated battery.
Great, awesome. So any of the pedos that want to see what I'm saying, Haiti? Honestly, if you really look at the laws into the city of what they've done, it is so jacked, dude. I worry because I do have a mom there. I have a nephew. I have family there in that city.
Well, the burning question I have, Christy, I want you to ponder before you answer. Who do you like more, me or Daniel? And don't forget, I am a Christian and he is an atheist.
You can't do that to me. That's not even remotely fair.
Who do you like more?
Oh my God.
Chrissy, be careful how you answer this.
Yeah, be very careful, Chrissy.
Come on, don't. No, I can't lose Ton. And then I might lose Haiti and Ton and stuff. Johnny, please don't ask me to answer that. Please, I'm asking you, please don't ask me to answer that.
Seriously, I don't care what your answer is.
Christy, life is about making tough choices. It doesn't make it a...
Yeah, but he's making it such a broad question where it's which one I like more. Did I like Jeff the most? Yes. Can I go with Jeff? I want Jeff.
Chrissy, how about you answer the question?
All right, Daniel. How about I do that with the PTR that you once made in honor of me?
The trolley problem between your...
Do you remember doing this tribute to me, Daniel? Do you remember this? Do you?
Chrissy, stop it.
Okay, I'm just saying he did it.
So, Daniel, could this be like a trolley problem presented to Chrissy, me versus you? You know what I mean?
Look, Johnny, I just don't want to piss off the other Christians on stage. I would be for real. We've had too much history. I love Daniel Nero at one point affectionately. Now it's just I try not to kill him or myself for loving him. But look, man, you can't ask me not to say Daniel Nero because it's Dan. That's why I plead the fifth on this. My ultimate answer is I choose not to pick anyone other than Jeff Lebowski. Yep, that's right. PTR, everybody. I made a whole thing just for Jeff, and that's it. Wait, where's the sound effects? Crap, I can't do it fast enough. Ton, help me. Jeff Lebowski is my answer. Final answer.
Well, Daniel, I guess we'll just have to settle for not knowing, right?
Yeah, he dips. Or got kicked.
would like to thank the Academy and my agent and
Oh, you just.
oh, you too, Chrissy. Look, she's been killing it in this room. You got to admit, really, no one carries the room better than Chrissy. It's true.
Okay, I'll do it since no one else is doing it. There we go.
Well, let's be fair. Let's be fair. There's something very interesting because Chrissy, looking at her profile, she has over 2,500 followers. I have just a measly 600 and some. So there must be something to that.
Okay, but here's the deal, Johnny. First of all, I've been on the app longer. Second of all, if you're looking at it like this is kind of like that murder per capita kind of deal. So of 2.5K, like 2.5K in 12 million that's on this platform. If there's 2.5K that love me, can you imagine how many hate me?
So I have some experience in this area, and I know because I've hosted rooms in Christie's Good People Only. You should all follow Good People Only because you're good people. But anyway, you go into a room, like I would start rooms in Christie's house, and Christy would show up, and all these people would be there. And then Christy leaves, and all the people leave. So we know the draw.
I don't know. My problem is not, first of all, I hate moderating. I'm a terrible moderator, but you guys do a way better job of it. Matter of fact, several of the other people that are not even mods on the stage, Haiti, if she's still on here, she's a good moderator. But, yep, and that's really what keeps it going. The idea is, in my eyes, a great house or club or whatever, and that's fruitful, can function booming and have lots of people in it, whether you're there or you're not there. And so the problem for me, whether I've got great admin in there like you or not, is that I just can't keep the boat afloat if I'm not in the room. So in that regard, I would have to say, I don't know. I think the Atheism Club and like a lot of Johnny's rooms and James's rooms, John Lee even, they know how to do it. I've landed my plane there, Clubhouse husband.
Johnny and James run a good room, I have to admit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
enjoy time in their rooms. I mean, Jedi, sorry.
I'd like to see a room where Gavin and Matt Adams are just the mods. I think that would be pretty entertaining.
Oh my God. Yes, please. Yes. And me and Heretic can eat popcorn in the audience and roll. Heretic does such an awesome Gavin. His impression of Gavin is amazing. Shut your mouth. Now I can't do it. Gavin, I cannot see people in rooms. I'm doing it now whether you're in the room or not. Oh, shut your mouth.
I don't know if anybody's heard it, but Cutie, if you know who Cutie is, does Toxic dead on.
Yeah, that one's funny.
I mean, dead on. It's
So
right.
Johnny, I won't be able to talk, I think, much, but I'll try to talk some more. But if somebody back channels you saying they can't get in the room, they're probably blocked by me. And if that's the case, and you want to talk to them, and I don't answer, you can send me to the audience and bring them in if you want.
That's big.
Yeah. I mean, no problem, James. Depending on the person, of course. But yeah, I understand.
But if I answer, I'd prefer if you didn't do that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I usually don't do that when, especially if it's like, my Christian buddies that, you and Matt Adams and John Lee and, people like that. If it's just a particular atheist, especially an atheist that usually never comes into my room or something like that, I'm not really going to shuffle my guys around just to bring some, person who doesn't really show up anyway to get on stage. So I'm not probably going to do that.
Yeah, some of these are atheists who do come in your room, but I really need to not have to put up with some of these particular people. I've been off the app, and I'm back on the app on and off for a few days, and then I just get today, and so I'm like, I'm probably going to end up blocking more, just to be honest with you, before it's done. And I know I say that I might not unblock them, but I'm really thinking that it just might be the best thing is to leave a chunk of them blocked.
Well, what I would probably do, James, like for example, right now, you're a mod. If an atheist said, "Well, hey, I'd like to get in your room, but James has me blocked," I would probably ask you, what would you like to do? Would you be willing to unblock them so they could come in? But if you said no, I don't think I would send you down just to get him in, because I would just simply be like, well, sorry, he doesn't want to do that. I mean, I tend to have a little more loyalty. Excuse me. I tend to have a little more loyalty to my guys as opposed to those that aren't really my guys. So I do have a bias there. I do have double standards, as I've mentioned before. So I probably just wouldn't do anything. I would not send you down just to get them in, I don't think.
Well, anyway, it's been a cool room. I'm gonna go play my guitar for a little bit. Thanks for having me. Y'all be cool. Peace.
Yeah, take care.
Wait. Did he leave? Oh, shucks.
Yes.
Okay, well.
You left.
Okay, well, friends, I love all of you, but I'm going to redo this. I'd like to, with him playing guitar. Maybe Ben. Johnny, Jedi, John Lee, the three homies mods. Do you guys know the Jewish dude on this app, Ben Benjamin? He's a big guy, great guitar player. A few other ones don't. Well, that's one that I was kind of alluding to don't bring it up, but you and me were talking about yesterday in a room that replays well, that I care for. But he's a really great guitar player, Jewish dude. Then there's some that don't even really talk. They refuse to even bring up what they believe. So it won't be religious in nature, but it will be music room, and it will be good people only. In where you can read it. I hope you guys do join it. I don't care if you are black, white, gay, straight, Christian, atheist, otherwise. Doesn't matter. Just follow the oneness commandment, which is implemented by Jeff. Thou shalt not be an asshole. Just don't be a jerk.
No, Chrissy. No, if it's not bluegrass gospel, I don't even want to hear it. It's trash.
See what I mean? Yeah, I know. I know you're being silly right now, but there are so many rooms, both on either side. Rooms that are for Democrats, rooms that are only for Republicans, rooms that are only for Christians, rooms that are only for Jewish people. And Clubhouse is really awesome at being polarizing and divisive in that. And my house, I don't play that game, man. I'm a Christian. I hope and pray to God, Johnny, that everybody in the room are also Christian and that they can go to heaven with us one day. But if they're not, as long as they're not a jerk and they try every day to be a little bit better than they were yesterday, you're totally invited in my house. Anyway, thanks, Johnny, for this room. I'm a dip.
Take care, Chrissy. I think during that conversation, I could tell Chrissy was, I believe, getting. I don't know. I think I could tell she was getting a little upset, maybe. And as much as I'll push some of these issues between the Calvinists and the non-Calvinists, but I'm not really interested in trying to slam someone over the head. I'm not really interested in doing that. But I think she demonstrated that there was a few times that I think some of these questions that we were asking her were perhaps upsetting. I don't know if anyone else noticed that or what, but I tended to notice that.
Well, that was
I don't ever remember having a conversation with her before, so she was interesting.
Oh yeah, she's definitely interesting. I mean, she's a handful, but especially when I know there's a big thing with the Christians and the atheists. They go back and forth, and a lot of times there's not a lot of love lost between the two. But when it comes to a scenario like this, that's the thing. Even though Chrissy doesn't share the exact same theological views that I do, I don't necessarily look at her as, oh, well, you're just therefore not a Christian. I don't see her like that. I wasn't bringing her Christianity into question. But I do think a lot of these questions that some of the Calvinists do ask are very, I think they can be very deep, but I think sometimes, admittedly, they can be disturbing as well. And I think some people respond to some of those questions that are a bit disturbing, that bring about some emotion. So I'm definitely aware of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think your packaging of Calvinism can be pretty intense at times. Someone like Chris Ra is more palatable.
Sorry, I'm eating a chicken nugget. Like in what way, as far as the difference between?
Yeah, I'll tell you. But so here's the big difference between you and Chris Roth. So Chris will say, "Well, you would have made the same decision anyway, so it doesn't really matter." And that's a big difference from what you're saying, because you basically are saying that, like, essentially implying that God is just like controlling everything, and then that's that, right? He's basically saying that, yeah, like God knows, but like you would have did it anyway. So that has a different kind of meaning to it.
Well, yeah, but then I guess that would raise a question when you say, well, God knows, but you would have done it anyway. Okay, based on what? God determining for you to do it anyway, right? I mean, you could always go back to that. And I think for a lot of people, they make statements like that, but it's like there's never, I don't say never, there's many times not a follow-up. Like, for example, even some that aren't considered Calvinists, but they'll make statements of sorts, and they don't, there's not really a follow-up to it. Like, for example, say a person says, I chose to do whatever, or this event happened. Even if you're talking about a very touchy subject, such as a school shooting, or whatever the case is, doesn't matter. Yeah, I understand that this happened, or you would have done this, or you would have done that, but the follow-up is, by design? Did this happen by design? You did this by design, right? And that's something that doesn't actually get mentioned a lot when people make those types of statements. Was that determined to happen, or was it not determined to happen?
Well,
this thing was horrible, but was it by design that this horrible event took place? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gets parsed out on. I think we're all in agreement that there is no libertarian free will, right? So, like, we can take that off the table. But in terms of free will, in the sense that you are making a decision, it just is the decision God already knew that you're going to make.
Yeah, but even with that, it's sort of like it simply tries to paint God as, well, God just had the foreknowledge of the decision you are going to make, which suggests you are just giving God information about what you were going to do.
No, not at all. So it is more like this. God knows the entire timeline from the beginning to the end, right? So past, present, and future, all is the same. There is no difference to God. So therefore, he knows every decision we're going to... He's not discovering it. God isn't discovering it.
Well, but if he didn't determine it and simply, had the omniscience of what you were going to do, that's still information that God has acquired by having the omniscience to peer into the future. That's like saying, well, I know what you're going to do simply because I'm omniscient. But it's simply still based on after the fact. I know what you're going to do because you did it, because I can see in the future. But it's another thing to say, yeah, of course I know what you're going to do because I determined for you to do it. It's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess the challenge I would find with your position is, like, what therefore is the difference between us and animals, like traditional animals, if we are essentially the same from that perspective?
Well, I mean, animals, they do things based on their instincts, of which we would say, well, yeah, they have a nature too. A deer has a nature, which is why deer do what deer do. Yeah, that can be very bland. But with people, people have something that I think animals don't have, which would be sort of a moral sense of to what and why they do things. Like, for example, do I think God is sending, an alligator to hell because, it ate a baby duck? No. Do I think God is sending a bull elk to hell because it copulated with a female that didn't give consent? No. But with people, it's a different story, because look at the law, for example, as we see in Scripture. The law was given to who? Animals? No, the law was given to humans. So there's still a difference in moral accountability.
Yeah, and then you have to ask why. So why is there, right? So, like, if we aren't, I mean, so you're correct, right? But, like, the way that you're representing it, you're almost kind of saying, like, well, there's really not any point to that, because really we are the same as animals in every way, but we just also have moral culpability. So it's basically, we're exactly the same as animals, but we got moral culpability, is how it comes off in terms of how you're communicating.
Well, then that wouldn't be exactly the same. That would be actually a stark contrast. Animals aren't morally culpable. Again, God doesn't look at animals in the sense of law violators or sin.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with your point, but, like, are you sitting here and saying that is the only difference?
Well, no, there are many differences. I mean, look at the reasoning faculty that God has instilled in mankind versus...
But what's the value of that?
I don't necessarily know the value. I mean, we could say that part of it is, the equipment there that God has installed, which enables us to, number one, have a moral barometer. I mean, because you'd have to reason with that as well. We'd have to make decisions based on those type of associations in what all God has installed in man that he has not installed in beast. But ultimately speaking, I think when it comes to some of these particular why questions, it gets down to more asking to explain the explanation. Well, why did God do this specifically for man? Or why did God do that? Well, you don't have to necessarily explain why he did it to demonstrate the fact that he did, and it is there.
Well, in the Bible, one of the reasons it says they did it is because we have choice. So that puts us above other creatures. However, you seem to be eliminating that.
The part of that is based on a reasoning faculty. We make choices based on what? Simply instinct alone?
No, I agree with you. I'm just wondering. Well, let me ask it to you this way: what impact would it have on your view, or what change would it make if you basically landed on? Yeah, the choices we make are the choices God knew we were going to make, 20 billion years ago, and they all align within His plan. He knows what the end game is, and every decision we make fits within that plan.
Well, I don't think anything would change, because that's exactly what I do believe. Every decision we make does fit within God's plan.
And I believe that too. I just think that it is the decision we made, and He knows it, and it was always in His vision. But we are making the choice
by design.
By design. Yeah, I think that's where we're getting hung up at, right? Because if a blackjack dealer knows how you're going to play the cards, are they making you play the cards that way? I don't know. I don't think they are.
Well, there's a set of rules when you play blackjack. So are you playing blackjack on your terms, or are you playing blackjack on the terms?
Yeah, you're playing it within the terms of the game, right? But
right.
one person could get 17, right, and say hit me, and another might not, right? So that is and if the dealer knows what you're going to do, the dealer didn't make you do that.
Yeah, I agree. Just as I similarly say that for you to do whatever it is that you did today, did God put a gun to your head and make you do it? Did you do anything against your will? No. We are still volitional creatures, of which I believe. We still have wills, of which I still support. It's just we also look in Scripture, I pointed this out earlier. It says, many are the plans of man. Will. All men have wills. Many are the plans of man, but it is God who guides the footsteps. Does anything happen apart from God's plan? In other words, did this particular event today or in history happen outside of God's plan? I mean, it happened unintentionally. It happened against God's will. It happened against God's plan. In other words, things are going on in the world that God never planned to have going on.
I'm not debating that with you. We're in agreement there. I think, and I think we may be saying about the same thing, but we're choosing to communicate it very differently.
Oh, that's certainly very possible. I'm not the most articulate person on the planet here, but I just look at God's sovereignty. God wrote the book. God decided the terms. Everything is on God's terms. Everything belongs to God. Salvation belongs to God. Faith belongs to God. Everything belongs to God. God does as He chooses. God did not create this world simply for the sake of catering to its inhabitants. He didn't create it for that sake. He created it for His reasons, for His purposes, for His pleasures, etc. It's all for Him, as Scripture teaches. The world was created through Him and by Him and, of course, for Him. It doesn't say Scripture was created simply for us and God is trying to give us the most comfortable world possible. God's trying to maximize comfortability. No, that's something that a person or a manufacturer is trying to do for the consumer and the products that they create. They're trying to cater to the consumer. They're trying to make the best product possible. They're trying to make the best couch as comfortable as they can to appeal to the consumers. They're trying to serve the consumer, so to speak. That's not what God is doing in this world. God did not create this world simply to try to make it as comfortable for us as he can, because he's here to serve us. No, everything is for him.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you would agree with that, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with it. But I think, like, the other thing that strikes me in terms of just, like, the usefulness of this discussion is that it sure feels like free will to us from our perspective. So isn't that kind of what also matters a great deal?
Well, I mean, that would also be by design, but the free will thing is something that I think there's so many different views of free will. It's not simply a universal definition that everyone subscribes to.
Yeah. Let me minimize it. Choice. Okay, so like for instance, I don't think my cat, or my cat before he died, was making like a series of choices, right? And I think, really, I don't think we're making choices in the moment. I think the choices we make are how we decide to train ourselves, right? So I think that like a person who decides to pray, to meditate, to become a Navy SEAL, like you're making decisions about how you will act in situations in the future because your brain's going to be trained differently. So I think our real choices are in how we decide to train our brain, because in the moment, in any moment, you're going to do your instinct based on what your existing programming is.
There's always going to be an external influence. Like, for example, we talk about having a change of heart. Do you get to change your own heart?
Do you get to change your own heart? Change your own heart. I think there are scenarios where you could train yourself to essentially change your own heart. Sure.
What would compel
not in the salvation way, but in other things.
What would compel you to do that?
All right. So let's say that one day you're watching a TV show about kids suffering in some part of the world. You might want to make a decision that, that is something that matters to you, and you're going to spend more time learning about that and training on that, so that you don't have a callous heart towards that.
Well, I get it, but there's still something that is influencing that view that you just described to me. Some people could look at that same television program or whatever, and they don't come away with the same thoughts that you have. Some people can't stand to look at death, whereas other people, it doesn't bother them a bit. So how is it that one person can't stand to look at death and another person says, okay, whatever it is, what it is, big deal, no problem? Anything we have as far as our views, of course, is always going to be externally influenced, whether you want to talk about environment, parental upbringing, name it, but there's still going to be an external influence that's going to have an effect on that particular individual. This is why parents would even say, oh, don't watch that TV program to their child, or they don't want their kids hanging around with these other type of kids, whatever. They're acknowledging that these environmental influences, or these particular influences regarding TV, does play a role in the way a child either develops or something like that. And it doesn't have to really simply pertain to children. Like, for example, you could take a person who grew up, he's an adult now, but they grew up in a very lovely and friendly environment, a loving environment, and then put them in a situation, say combat or whatever the case is, where they're constantly seeing death and suffering and evil and rape and all sorts of horrors constantly. Do you think that person is going to be the same person after they experience these scenarios as they were prior to experiencing them? Well, no, they're going to be a different person afterwards. Why? Because something is influencing that change. This is why I also say, can you change your own heart? No, something else has to influence or forcefully even change that individual's heart, because you can't change your heart in of yourself. You just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, to go back to your situation, how much that person's going to get influenced is based on the programming they already had going into that situation. And so one thing you can do is influence the amount of programming you have, and then when you're in that situation, it will change your behavior. Like, I intentionally went on a journey for years to focus on being more optimistic, and that influences me seeing situations differently than I did 10 years ago. So that was a conscious decision. So that is an example of how you can program your mind in advance for when you're encountering situations.
Still yet, the things that change your views, whether it's through experiences or whatever the case is, there's something else that is producing the effect. You just don't simply produce it in of your own self. Something else has to attribute to that.
Go one layer deeper for me.
Well, again, we don't simply get to change our own heart. I mean, I'm just going to simply stick with that. Something else has to have an impact, which brings about the change. Now, it's not just specific to the heart, but it could be specific to your views, whether it's political views. I mean, do you think the same way you do today as you did 20 years ago? Well, of course not. Well, why not? Okay, why not? Something has had an impact on the way you see things now compared to how you saw things 20 years ago. Okay, did you impact yourself to see things differently now than you did then? No, something else external to your own self had an impact on you, which caused the change.
Yeah, it's a mix of factors, of course. So Tony Robbins says this quote, life is not just about the events that happen to you, but how you interpret them.
Well, sure, but what I'm saying is you're going to change based on experiences and different events and what you're exposed to, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, these type of external examples that I'm talking about is maybe you could use the word cultivate, I guess. It's cultivating a change. I'll even use the word evolution. Evolution is still change. So these are the things that are causing or having an effect or an impact on a person, which is why people, in their 20s are much different in their 60s. They just didn't simply do it themselves. There's something else that had an effect on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference on how you end up viewing similar events over time is not only driven by environment, but it's also driven by what decisions have you made in terms of the type of person you want to be or how you want to think about situations in the future. That to me seems like the element I don't hear you accounting for.
Say that one more time, please.
So I think what causes you to perceive events differently at different parts in your life are not only the environmental things that happen to you, but the decisions you make on what type of person you want to be or how you want to train yourself for those future.
I get it, but when you say the decision regarding the person you want to be, okay, what is that you want to be? Do you want to be a better person? Do you want to be more patient? Do you want to be more loving? Do you want to be more kind? Whatever, name it. But whatever it is that you say you want to be, okay, what is causing you to want to be that? What's causing you to want to change that?
I would agree with you on that part. So we're in agreement on that part. But I guess what I'm saying is that two people could want the same thing. So let's say two people want patience, okay? I'm saying one person may go through the process of really training to be that, right? They might end up going to a bunch of meditation classes. They may end up taking courses and seminars and this and that. And then the other person just says, I want to be more patient, right? These two people are then going to get different outcomes when it's time to express that patience.
Well, I get it, but I mean, it goes back to what I asked earlier. You say this particular person wants to make a specific change. Let's say the change is this person wants to lose weight, or this person wants to, educate themselves. Regardless of what it is that they want, what is causing them to want that? There's something else that is driving that.
Yeah, we don't disagree on that aspect. I mean, and I think it's going to be easier in your analogies if you always say two people want blank, because we know that when you take two people, they get different outcomes. So the question becomes, if two people want the same thing, why are there different outcomes?
That's one of those questions that, do you want a theological response to that, or do you just, or what? But for me, why are there two different outcomes? Why do two people want to go to this particular school or want to do this particular thing? One of them excels, the other one flunks. Whatever the scenario is. Well, again, there is a theological response to that, which is going to be very simple, but even if you didn't have the answer to it, even if you didn't know, you would still just be able to point to, well, as far as what compelled them, it was an external source. It's always going to be external. It's like you can't do anything outside of what your nature even influences you to do. And this is where I've heard some definitions of libertarian free will is the idea that you can make decisions outside of what your nature influences you to do. Well, to me, that's absurd. I don't know if many people that subscribe to libertarian free will, I don't know if they're looking at it in that specific type of definition, but some of the definitions I've read, that seems to be one of them as on how to define libertarian free will. And to me, that's just simply one of the most absurd definitions that I think I've ever read in my entire life.
Well, I'm struggling with one aspect of what you're saying, though, because, like, to me, what actually makes Christianity feel more true than other religions is the counterintuitive nature of it, right? Is like what the Pharisees were preaching, that was kind of like the natural order, and what Jesus taught was very counterintuitive. It was going against what people's nature was at the time.
Exactly. That's why when I hear Christians say things like, well, yeah, I'm the one that ultimately decided to accept this offer that God just made available to everyone, Well, you're accepting this offer to come to Christ. It would be the absurd definition that I mentioned earlier. You're doing something outside of what your nature influences you to do. That is absurd to me. Now, for the Calvinist is saying, well, you're doing something inside of what God has, changed in you by giving you a different nature. So, in a sense, when the Calvinist says, well, yes, this person does desire Christ, they are doing that from sort of a nature that is influencing, that is driving that. However, it's not the nature of the natural man. It's the new nature that God has given them. So they too are doing that which their nature influences. It's just the nature had to be altered. that had to be amended, because simply God allowing you to find it within your own corrupt nature to seek Him, then those who would say, "Oh, well, you know what? I just accepted this offer. I came to Christ on my own." It's not in your nature to come to Christ on your own. That's what I was pointing out to Chrissy there earlier. Scripture teaches that man is naturally, by nature, he is naturally hostile to God. No one seeks God. No one is good. He is dead in his transgressions. So for a dead man who is dead in his transgressions, for a natural man who has a heart of stone that is by nature hostile to God, for that individual to then respond to the quote-unquote offer and quote-unquote accept Christ, they have to believe in that type of libertarian free will. They would be doing something outside of what their nature influences them to do. But the natural man does not do that, because again, it's not in his nature. It is in the nature to seek Christ when God has changed that nature and given them a new one.
I agree with you on all those aspects. I think that, to me, sometimes you apply the principle more broadly than it is needed to be applied. I mean, because you apply it outside of that context. So that's a part for me that's a struggle. I think is you're taking something that I think, like, instead of using it as a scalpel, you're using it as a hammer, and it's the answer to all human behavior across the board all the time for everything. So that is where that's where I think the rub is for me.
Well, I don't know about the answer for all of human behavior, but that is the answer for the behavior of one that does turn to Christ. That is the only answer.
Yeah, so we're in agreement with that. But you take it further than that context.
Well, I mean, in what manner?
Like when you were talking about, I was in the room briefly, or when you're talking about all the decisions that Hitler made, right, and everything that played out from that. You use it as essentially your model to answer all human behavior.
Okay, I mean, again, God is sovereign. God is in control. Everything happens on His terms. He has determined that things such as the Holocaust do occur. God has determined that to happen. It's not a matter of, well, God just has the foreknowledge that it's going to happen. No, He had planned for it to happen because He was going to make use out of that for a greater purpose. It's not simply, I just had foreknowledge of what Hitler was going to do, and let me try to figure out a way to... Hold on. Okay. I just knew what Hitler was going to do, and then being that I'm a lot smarter than Hitler, I was able to just simply turn it around and then make utility out of it. No, that's not how I look at it. It wasn't that God is reacting to what Hitler did and then making a utility out of the actions and events that took place. God already made utility out of everything that happens in this world, and the Holocaust itself is a utility that God had ordained to be used for a greater purpose.
All right, so let's look at it like this real quick. So let's say that the rapture is going to happen in the year 3000. Okay, I'm just making this up. And because of that, all that is going to happen up until that point, obviously leads into that, right? And God knew that, let's just say 20 billion years ago, just to use a time. So God knows everything that's going to happen, and all those things end up leading into the rapture. It would therefore make sense that none of that needs to change, right? Because it all is the vision, it all leads into that. So I am not with you in this idea of that meaning that it's all determination versus the foreknowing. I think that, like, if someone, someone stepping on an ant, like, that's a big determinant. Those are just the things God knew was going to happen, and it all leads to this destination because that's all the master plan. So that foreknowledge to me is not the same as God dictating that you stepped on the ant.
Well, it leads to the master plan. Was that plan, the master plan that you're talking about, was that determined?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If the master
plan is determined.
Okay, if the master plan is determined, which would be the end state of the affair, the event, if that was determined, the outcome I'm speaking of, if that was determined to happen exactly how God determined it to happen, then everything along the way had to also be determined. You can't shuffle that around and say, well, this wasn't determined, but the outcome was. Like, for example, if you read the book of Revelation, when you read that, do you just simply think God has foreknowledge of what's going to happen in the future, and He's just letting us know what He knows is going to happen? Is that how you read that? I look at it as the events that these prophetic events that are going to happen. They're going to unfold exactly as it teaches they're going to unfold. But I don't look at it merely of, hey, God saying, hey, guess what? I know. Let me let you in on the details. I look at it as this is going to happen according to exactly everything you read in Revelation. It's going to happen this particular way because God has determined every part of that to happen in the way we read it's going to happen. So if you're going to say the ultimate outcome is determined, everything else has to be determined too in order for the ultimate outcome to come about in the way God determined it to come about.
Known. No, it just has to be known. Like, for instance, if you are if you are trying to get someone to go to a certain destination, and you keep and the path is structured so that they have to end up going in that way. That doesn't mean you determine when they woke up that morning, what conversation they had in the car while they're going on that path. It doesn't mean all of that. It just means basically that the road was determined to lead them to that outcome. But it doesn't speak to every thought they had while driving, every conversation they had while driving. It doesn't get you all that.
Well, that sounds like to me you're saying God knew that I would marry this particular blonde-headed woman. And because God knew that I would marry her, He went ahead and then determined that we would have a son that would look like this, have these type of features, have this type of quality, would favor his mother in this sense, would favor me in this sense. In other words, God just simply had the foreknowledge of what I would choose into this woman being my wife. But then God stepped in and determined that the child we had would be a boy, and it was going to look like.
Got it. So this is where we're having the disconnect. I can see it now. Okay. You keep bringing things up as though they are sequential, right? And I'm not making any argument that God is making any sequential decisions. All this has already happened. There is no sequential nature that God is dealing with. The entire timeline is exactly the same. There is no sequencing. It's only sequential for us because we're experiencing the time. But to God, everything has already happened. So there's no decision, there's no sequencing. It is all the same.
But this is where it's, I don't know how you, I don't really know how you sort this out with this foreknowledge of God just simply knows what's going to happen. Because That's like saying, although God knew what was going to happen in the future, in the event of me marrying this particular woman and having a little boy, it's like saying God knew what would happen, but he still never determined it to happen. He just knew it was going to. That's not being in control.
Yeah, but again, it's not like a surprise, Johnny. And again, if it's a snap of a finger, right? So if let's again, just to quantify it, because otherwise it's just not a possible conversation. If a snap of a finger to God is 50 billion years of knowledge, and all that 50 billion years shows up exactly the same, it's not sequential, it's just all knowing at once, I don't see what the rub is for you.
You're just simply showing that God has knowledge into the future. But still, yet, look for example, look in hindsight. If you take yourself back to hindsight, put an old video in when you were, I don't know when the last video you took, but let's say you've got a video of yourself 10 years ago on a beach, riding a surfboard, whatever. You can take yourself back to that moment. And while you're in that moment, you can still know what you were going to do that very next day, or during that time you were riding the surfboard. Or maybe that was during the time when you were out on the beach, that's where you met your wife. Whatever the scenario is, you can look at that video in the past, and although you're seeing all of the things that are going on, you know what's going to happen. So you're just simply looking at it in that type of perspective. But knowing what's going to happen doesn't mean it was determined to happen. If it's not determined to happen, you're only just simply knowing what's going to happen. It's not determined.
No, I like your video analogy. No. It actually plays out pretty well, because if I am watching a video from 10 years ago, I know what's going to happen. I'm not determining it happening. I'm just able to watch it, and I know that it will happen.
Exactly. And that's how I think people are picturing God. God can advance himself into the future, knowing all of the events, no differently than in this analogy I'm giving you by going back in time, because you've already been into the future. But you're going back in time, seeing yourself do what you already knew you were going to do, and you just have that knowledge. But again, having that knowledge doesn't mean that you're determining the events in this video that you're watching that you did. You're not determining that the actions that you did that day. But the problem with that is, as I said, if it's not determined, you're still not in control. You just simply have the knowledge of what is going to happen. That doesn't mean you're in control of the events. So that depicts God as, yes, he's omniscient, but he's just an omniscient God that knows everything, but yet he's not in control. That's, to me, not really a sovereign God.
I guess, again, we talked earlier about vision, the big picture, and, God getting the ultimate outcome that God wants to have. So I think you removed that from what you just said.
No. Everything that look, CEO, everything that has happened in this world, it happened because God wanted it to happen. This is why it did happen. It didn't happen because you wanted it to happen. Ultimately, it happened because God wanted it to happen. This is not your world. This does not belong to you. Yes, we are volitional creatures. Why? God planned for us to be volitional creatures. God wanted us to be volitional creatures. He wanted us to make choices and decisions. He gave us the faculty to do that because he wanted us to do that. But you are not in control. God is in control. Everything that happened in this world, now in history, and when you read the book of Revelation, which is in the future, it happened exactly the way it happened because that's how God wanted it to happen. God got what he wanted. God's not simply satisfied with just simply taking what he could get. That's the attitude, I think, that a lot of people have. Well, God just took what he could get, and he's just making lemons out of lemonade.
I'm not saying that at all. No, I'm not.
That's what it sounds like to me.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Well, look. I've got to run here soon, but look. Everything that happens, God wanted it to happen that way, because that is part of his plan. He has a purpose. This is the problem. We may not like the Holocaust. And I'm not saying God liked the Holocaust in the sense of liking the evil for the sake of evil. No, God hates evil. God hates wickedness. He is going to punish the wicked for a purpose. We see that in the Old Testament even, that God raised Pharaoh up for the purpose of what? So his power could be put on display, and the name of God can be heard and demonstrated throughout the land. That's what God had purposed. This is why he planned it to happen exactly as it happened. God had a reason for it. God's not simply sitting back, taking what he can get and making the best of it.
No, I think what happens I'm not saying that at all. And again, I said, no, you got to run. I said that the decisions people make are all in God's, are known by God. So, because otherwise, what you're saying, Johnny, this is where everyone comes back on you in terms of atheists and some of the Christians, is that you are removing culpability from people in the sense that, like, there's no role they really had in it. It's just puppeteering, and then the puppets burn.
You will never ever hear me say. You will never. Well, they're having an issue with something that I never say. I never claim that people are just puppets. I never claim that people don't have roles. I never claim that people don't make decisions. I never claim that people do not have a will. I never claim that people do not make choices.
Well, Tom, Tom, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, do you think people think that Johnny is saying we're puppets?
Puppets? No, it's. I don't think he would say it like that.
Because that, to me, that's how some people are interpreting him.
I mean, believes in determinism. I mean, I guess that's like some kind of control, but I just have issue with the way that you're saying it. Maybe I don't think you would. I've never heard him say that. Right? Now, if by puppets you just mean that like we're determined, then sure, yeah. There's a difference between like winding up a toy and then sending it on its way, which is like a determined path, and like actively pulling strings for each decision.
Yeah, puppets aren't volitional. We as human beings are. That's how God created us. And that's my view, of course. And I think a lot of people want to, I guess, assume that the determinist, I guess, is painting God as some sort of puppeteer, and we're just all marionettes dancing to the tune without any volition at all. Like it's almost like we're the AI bot or something like that. And of course, that's certainly exactly what I'm not saying. But when it comes to determinism, a lot of people argue, well, I'm a compatibilist. Yeah, okay, a compatibilist is still a determinist. They just simply believe determinism is compatible with free will. You're still a determinist.
Right.
But if you're going to look for if you're going to look at God as God being in control, and He is the one that has designed the universe. He is the one that wrote the book of Revelation, determining the events to unfold exactly as it teaches are going to unfold. Then God is in control. He is either sovereign or not. He is in control all of the time or not. And I look at it as God being in control all of the time. And essentially, in a nutshell, if someone were to ask me, why are you a Christian, Johnny? God made me a Christian. It was God's plan to make me a Christian. Sure. God determined that I would be a Christian. There. Now, does that mean I didn't have any volition? I didn't make choices? I don't have a will? No, of course that's not what that means. But God's will be done, as Scripture teaches. Now, people can argue with that or not. That don't really matter to me whether they do or not. I'm just going to go with what Scripture teaches. But I think people struggle with determinism because it squashes self-determinism. Well, man doesn't like that. He doesn't like God being totally in control. He wants to be in control. So they don't really like the idea of God, the one being the ultimate determinist. They want to think, no, I have self-determinism, and God's just reacting to whatever I do, and if I make a mess, God's just a good janitor. He's just good at cleaning up messes that He just knew I was going to make. But He didn't determine for me to make them, right? So things are happening in this world that God never determined to happen. God created a world and events unfold He never meant to unfold. Really? That makes sense? Not to me.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, and again, I don't think I disagree with anything that you just said there, but we can pick it up another day. Have a good night.
Yeah, I'm gonna be taking off here in a few, but Tom, there's been talks of perhaps maybe trying to see if Matt Adams would debate John Lee on some sort of Calvinistic topic.
Oh, come on, get out of here.
I just don't know if it will happen because here's the thing. I think John has uttered before, and he did earlier tonight, he's been trying to have this debate with Matt Adams for 2 years. Trying to have this debate.
Come on, get out of here.
So why is this not happening? That's the question, right?
Well, you know why.
I'm not sure I do.
John Lee's a coward.
I don't think John Lee would, run from that particular challenge if Matt agreed to take that on. I don't think John Lee would run from that.
Well, then, I guess all that's left to do is just do it, huh?
That's the thing, trying to get them together to decide on, a particular Calvinistic topic, whether it be free will, whatever. That's been undecided. That hasn't really been discussed and concluded. So, I don't know. I guess I would have to see what Matt Adams wants to do as well.
Yeah, they should, I guess, just do it.
I think it would be very interesting and perhaps entertaining, of course. I've already had talks with Matt Adams. I had one yesterday on some Calvinistic issues. Matt didn't really seem to, there wasn't a ton of pushback. I mean, there were some questions raised, but, the way that discussion was conducted, I thought was pretty fruitful. But perhaps with John, because I think Matt has said before too, if he does debate John on this issue, he is going for the jugular. Now, see, I wasn't trying to do that with Matt yesterday in our comps. I wasn't trying to beat him up or go for the jugular. But I think if this does become an actual formal debate between the two, there could be some fireworks. I think Matt is probably going to take the gloves off, as well as I think John probably would. In kind.
Come on, like, let's just stop the nonsense, John.
I think
we both know what the holdup is to the debate, right? We both know it's John Lee. What's that? He's scared.
I don't think he is. I think I'm going to try to push for this to take place because, like I say, I need to talk to Matt Adams as well. I mean, Tom, you're also a promoter, right? Why don't you talk to Matt? Because you spend a lot of time with Matt too. Why don't you talk to Matt and see if you can,
I wouldn't talk to Matt at all because Matt's not the bottleneck. It's John Lee.
So you don't think Matt is the holdup, the wrench in the wheel at all?
No, absolutely not. No, Matt's willing to do it. John Lee's not.
So if this debate happens, will you be shocked?
Matt Lee is not the holdup. John Lee is. I'm sorry, what?
So if this debate does manifest and you get to see it right before your eyes, are you going to be shocked, I guess?
In a vacuum, I would be shocked. However, I do know about how John Lee is. John Lee is a coward, but he's also a contrarian. So I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of talk motivates him to do it. If we were talking and like there was no knowledge of that, and we're talking in a way in which John Lee has no knowledge of what we say, then yeah, I would be kind of shocked. I would be pretty shocked. But considering that he's not only, I mean, he's in the room, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like he does it just because we're saying he won't. He's very motivated by stuff like that.
Well, even if that were the case, that's what motivates him. I don't think you could say, well, he's a coward, because if that debate does happen, maybe you could say he's a contrarian. But if the debate does happen, well, then that would sort of debunk that, he's a coward, of which before it would be like, well, that's why you're not doing it. Well, if he's doing it, then he's not a coward after all. But I would like to talk to Matt Adams more and maybe see if I can do something too to bring these two folks together.
Yeah, make no mistake, Johnny. John Lee is a fucking pussy.
I mean, you may say he's a lot of things, Tom. I mean, but come on. He spent how many hours in a lot of your rooms where he's, being berated and castigated and excoriated and just demeaned and insulted and condescended, and yet he still remains, or he did for quite some time.
I mean, that's just a showcase of ego.
That could be, but like I said, out of all the things to say, I'm not sure saying that he's that. I don't know how many people would actually be on board with that either. But either way, we'll see what happens, because I'm kind of curious too. folks, I'm going to go ahead and retire for the evening. John, I don't know if you're still there, but if you are, it's your show.
Oof.
All right, guys, take care. I'm gone.
See ya.
just ended that one. Oh, it's 11.